Welcome to a new episode of the Super Beta Brothers podcast. I am Jaemeel Robinson here to invite you to cover Big Brother 11, episode 24 nominations. We're back after that crazy, crazy double eviction that we saw last week, where we saw Kuzi go home, followed quickly by Shania. So um, let's put all the cards on the table right now. Not a big fan of this episode. It was a lot of recap, a lot of covering what happened last week. I'm a big fan of why don't you just kind of mention it, work it in to the previous episodes, because a lot of times there's a lot of excess, extra fat that's there that could have been, cleaned up with a lot of this information. But regardless, we're here. We're gonna, cover it. So here we go. I'm gonna reset my pictures back to the beginning. Click, 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 click. So, as always with me, previously on Big Brother, it was the double eviction. And after Kuzi went home, Claudia won HOH, right? And nominated both Daniel and Anika for eviction. Well, they did the POV, and of course, Ty does what Ty does, and he won ball game, and Shania was put on the block. Now, we see in this episode kind of capturing what happened, what led up to this decision. We all know that Shania went home, but how exactly did she go home? So, when Claudia won HOH, she pulled Daniel aside, had a conversation with him, told him, I'm going to put you and Anika up, but don't worry. You know, Worst comes to worse, like you two have the opportunity to win a veto. Ty doesn't win it. You take yourselves down, right? And then we can see from there, right? And if you two stay up, Daniel, I want to keep you, right? So Daniel's in a good mood. He understands, you know. Claudia details her plan to Ty and states that if one of them gets taken down, Shania goes up, and then of course, he's gonna have to save Shania with the vote, and she grills him about it, and he eventually agrees, very very reluctantly, so much so that it should have been alarm bells in her head that, oh no, you know this might not turn out well for me. So Ty has a conversation with Anika, and kind of details exactly what he plans to do. Right? Um, he wins the veto, obviously, as I mentioned before, and kind of details exactly what is the move going forward. Shania is going to go up, and he's going to take out Shania. Bring in, bring in Daniel. So Anika goes to get Daniel, but then Claudia comes in, and Ty and Claudia have a conversation. Not a good one, mind you. Right? Ty starts detailing some information, and as Ty usually does whenever he has any type of power, he has this condescending voice and tone when he speaks to people. It is infuriating. It's so infuriating. It's constant. Anytime he's in a position of power. When he's not in a position of power, you see him, his body language is kind of like muted, and everything. But anytime a situation when the worm turns, it's just pure bravado. It's insane. Regardless, he details to um, to Claudia that Shania, Daniel, and Nika were working together, and he can't trust Shania. He's communicated to Renee, to Claudia, to Daniel, and Nika. Everyone listens with the exception of Shania. Doesn't want to work with her. She needs to go. If Claudia says, and Claudia has repeatedly stated in this episode that she wants to work with Ty because if she can't beat him, might as well join him. Well, um, Ty wants this, right? Ty wants this for them to know that they're working together. So Claudia has to go and have a conversation with the girly pops. The girly pops, for those who, for whatever reason, are just joining us now, um, this episode is Shania, Claudia, and Renee are the girly pops. And uh, Claudia has to break down the situation that it seems like Ty is going to pull someone down, and therefore the only people that are eligible to go up on the block are one of the girly pops. Now, brief pause here. She's acting like this was unfathomable to happen, which makes no sense because when you put two people up and you're down to five, right? If the person who wins the veto is not on the block, they can easily mess with you, and the two people you didn't nominate would have to go up. This is common sense. You're looking at the numbers in front of you. It's like there's two there, and there's you know three other people, all right? And if wins veto, he can't be put on the block. So that leaves only two people left, and he takes one person down. You only have a pool of two people to put on the block. Those two people that were outside the block are the girly pops. So you did this to yourself, right? If you want to protect the girly pops so much, then you should have put Ty on the block, right? And you know, you were determined to, try to build more bridges and show trust with Ty, but you know how Ty is, right? Claudia knows how Ty is, and she should have known better that he would say everything that he needs to say, and then when it's his time in the power position, she would have to, you know, bow to his will or, follow his lead. Well, regardless, back to this conversation that the girly pops are having. Um, it's very emotional for the girly pops because they know that this is the end of the line for their trio, and Shanae at this point kind of mentions like, you know what? I don't deserve it. Renee, you do. So you guys can vote me out. Now, brief aside again. I don't understand this you deserve it more than me kind of thought process. To me, it never makes any sense. Never. Never makes any sense. No one deserves anything on these game shows. No one. No one deserves it more than the other. Now, as a outside viewer, kind of like seeing all the different pieces fall into place, sure can have opinion of who deserves it more, right? Or who I want to win it more, or who I feel should win it more. But like no one deserves this money, right? There are people who are outside the game who deserve the money, but none of these people deserve the money. So you saying that this person deserves it more, no, that's a lie. That's not true. Shanae, you have as much as right to that money as Renee, or as Claudia, or as Ty, Anika, or Daniel. Now, if you're willing to give up your game, that's your prerogative and everything like that. But don't lie to people and say that someone deserves it more. None of you deserve it more. Anyways, so Claudia has a decision that she has to make. We move on. So Daniel and Nika talk about the situation, and they're thinking about, okay, like why aren't they putting up Renee? Because Daniel, Anika, Shania, and also Claudia had like a final four deal. So their thought process is, hey, why don't we try to talk to, Claudia to put the heat on Renee? But Daniel wisely says if they start talking about things now, she can just turn around, tell Ty which could, spook Ty, and Ty could break the tie. Obviously, that's going to happen. And, one of them could be going home. So the better choice, don't say anything. Let's see how it goes. Let Ty roll. We at least get Shania out. It's still 2-2 with Ty, who they believe is more loyal to them than to Claudia and company. So the news gets broke to Claudia. She is very sad. Right? And then we go on the rest of the girly props. We get these sequences where, everyone's sad and crying and everything like that. And look, I only know these people from the show. And the show doesn't do a good job, in my opinion, all the time of putting them in the most positive of lights. So I don't have the empathy that the rest of the house guests do. They've been living with these people for, day in and day out for how many years. So this whole sequence, I was cackling with laughter. Just nothing I could do. Like, look, Jonathan's the best person out of everyone. Everyone says it. So everyone else kind of falls shy of really getting to me that their emotional moment. Anyways, moving on. So Claudia has another conversation with Ty, and it's like they know. They know. It makes it hard for me to watch these episodes when you see the back and forth with Claudia and Ty. We get a couple more sequences of this where Ty has a very clear thought process of how the game is going and how different pieces are kind of playing. And he talks about how, you know, other people besides Shania will listen to him. What he really means is that other people in the house, right, don't constantly um, let him run over them. Because the way he talks to people is, and we see it in the latter scene, so I'm not going to really spend too much time covering the other sequence that I'm going to show a picture of, is that he starts with a premise, and it seems pretty straightforward and simple. There's a little back and forth, says things playfully, but then he starts getting passive aggressive and states that your opinion or your thought process on a particular situation doesn't make any sense. Clearly, for you, in your perspective, right, it does. Or that you're going to do something and you're like, well, I don't know what I was going to do, or I wasn't going to do that, whether it's lie or truth, right? The same type of grace that you would be giving him in terms of him stating his, strategy and what he plans to do doesn't afford you the same respect. And then he keeps going. He keeps going and then states that your opinion is invalid and that you're like you're being irrational or emotional when this dude is raising his voice. This dude is constantly cutting people off and putting in a position where he's frustrating individuals because you're trying to, like, the person's trying to explain themselves, right, to, like a debate or a conversation, go back and forth. He just keeps cutting off your legs constantly over and over again, right? And the way it works with Claudia, that they are able to work together, is that she eventually just goes, "Oh, okay," right? And he takes it as, "I won." And it's just frustrating. So frustrating watching this, right? And makes the dude so unlikable. I just I seriously wonder, like, how he is in his home life, right? And, like, does this circle, like, just deal with this, or just, like, they're just used to it? Okay, regardless. Anyways, Ty. Ty and Claudia. So Shania goes home. Everyone's sad. Cry, cry, cry. Bye. Afterwards, we get a conversation where Ty is talking to Anika and Daniel, and they're talking about the position and the players in the house, and Ty mentions that he knew about the groupings that were in place, right? And they weren't quite like they were kind of like Daniel and Nico were like, What is he talking about?" kind of thing. And what we see is that Ty knew about, you know, the crown. He knew about the Final Four alliance that Shania, Claudia, and Anika and Daniel had. Now, for Anika and Daniel, that's no skin off their back because, they did that because technically they were down to two people and they were just positioning themselves. Ty can appreciate and acknowledge that type of strategy. But his issue is in terms of Claudia kind of, not being forthcoming with that. Anyways, but Anika and Daniel's perspective when Ty leaves the room is they believe that Claudia spilled the beans to Ty about this. So we go into our HOH. HOH is pretty simple. You have like it's kind of like a survivor puzzle. Not puzzle, but like endurance challenge where you have to put your foot on a teeter-totter and you have to keep a certain amount of pressure. On the opposite end is a little statue that says HOH, and uh, if you uh, change the amount of pressure that you are providing, the statue could fall off. Statue falls off, you eliminate from the game. Well, Anika wins. Anika wins, and this is possibly one of the quickest HOHs ever. How quick you might ask. 17 seconds. Really? Ty blames Daniel for distracting him because Daniel's piece fell off and he was paying attention to that, and then he didn't realize that what was going on, and his fell off shortly after. He was distracted. Doesn't matter. Nico won. um Dude, you lost. It was you messed up. Okay, but once again, doesn't really matter. Final four HOH, all it does is grant you immunity, right? Right? Nominations don't matter, right? For Final Four HOH, right? All that matters is HOH has immunity, right? And then the person who wins the POV is the one who really kind of determines uh he determines the nominations, and will be the person who chooses who is removed, eliminated. So there's a lot of power in the POV. So it's more important to win a POV. So this is the conversation I was talking about. Ty is in the room with Renee and Claudia, and he just keeps going on and on. And it gets to the point where Claudia is just so frustrated that she just gets up and leaves. And like any person who watches this sequence, I can't imagine would be like, well, Ty's right. Like, Ty isn't right for one simple reason. The way he talks to people, right? You can't have a proper conversation with this man when he's like this at all. Right? It's just passive aggressive um behavior, and just a total disregard to your opinion, your thoughts, and your feelings. Right? Right? He just tries to hammer his point, and just keeps talking until you just curl up just for it to be over. Anyways, right? Anika goes for her Wendy's. Adele, um, is the Wendy's representative. Yippee. Gives some advice. I don't even want to say it's good advice. He gives some advice, and I'm skipping Anika's whole, winners fashion show and HOH room. That stuff is absolutely boring and useless. So it's more product placement. So meh. So Ty and Anika have a conversation, and um, they converse about the situation. Nika gets more details as to exactly where Ty got his information, where we learn that it was from Kuzi, and Kuzi was aware of this situation. And I think the important thing to take away isn't necessarily that Ty got the information from Kuzi, is really the feeling about how Kuzi felt about that information, because she's heading into the jury house. No jury sequence. Probably see it on eviction night. But um, who's going to get the credit of that team up, and especially with the aftermath of Shania following shortly after, um, you know, Kuzi was leaving. Anyways, you have Claudia and Ty having another conversation. I won't go over it anymore. They keep talking. We get our nominations, and our nominations are Claudia and Renee. Doesn't really matter. HOH is immunity. POV has the real power. So we're gonna see come tomorrow exactly where the chips will lie, and that's the episode. That's the episode. That's it. And as I mentioned before, gonna keep it short. We're gonna see what happens. What do I think is gonna happen? I don't know. I haven't looked up the digital dailies to kind of get the scoop as to what's going on. As you get closer to the ending, you just kind of want to see it unfold, and then you kind of backtrack to if anything interested happened. If you hear anything online, haven't really heard anything yet, so we'll see. So that's it for our episode. Thank you for joining. Um, but now it's time for me to do a little, house cleaning, not in my actual house because I don't do that, but actually house cleaning here. So tomorrow's episode for Big Brother, um, as of has been the case this year, we will not be covering it for Super Mario Brothers, but we will be here on Thursday for the eviction. So uh, I would like to announce that Dave will be running it along with Foster. So definitely check that out. That's going to be great. Um, Tomorrow is Survivor on the Super Mario Brothers podcast, and Dave and Foster will be covering Survivor. I shall not be there, unfortunately. I have a prior engagement. I am guesting on another show, even though I do greatly love the Super Mario Brothers podcast. I will be guesting on one of our sister shows. Um, and you might be asking, wait, how does Super Mario Brothers podcast have a sister show? Well, Super Mario Brother podcast is part of the United Federation of Podcasts. It's a little uh, podcast network that we have going on. So, as mentioned before, Super Mario Brothers podcast, we air Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Tuesdays for Big Brothers, Wednesday for Survivor, Thursday for Big Brother. Um, we also have uh, a little thing called the MMMs, the Mary Marvel Mater Society, where we cover Marvel movies as their release. And this week is going to be not Quantumania. We did Ant-Man recently, but we have Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Volume 3. And I believe we're going to be doing it on Sunday. Check out the channel and see when we have our schedule up. Please check it out. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, airing this week, starting this week. So should definitely check it out. And then, watch us as we do our review. Give your opinions, your feelings about the movie. Join us. But for tomorrow, I will be on another movie review podcast called Hold Up. with the world mind Chris Murphy and Davan Skelhorn. Uh, this week, we're going to be covering heists. 3 heist movies, 2 movies pre 2000, 1 post 2000. The first movie is Pink Panther from 1963. The second movie is Out of Sight from 1998. And the third movie is Victoria from 2015, if I'm correct. So definitely check us out. I think it's going to be a great show. I have a lot of strong opinions about the 3 movies, and let's see how you feel. Check them out and join us for the movie. Siblings on this podcast network is KBBBL. Now, currently, it's on hiatus. KBBL. It's Simpsons recap review podcast, starting from the very beginning, with Davin, Baker, and oh my gosh, I can't remember the third person. Anyways, it's currently on hiatus, just for a quick spell. Hopefully not too long. But you can check out the previously released episodes, watch the Simpsons episode, then watch KBBL episode that corresponds with it. Great pairing. It's like a good wine and a steak. Also with Davin is X-Men, X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show, where Davin and Andre Mayette are covering the X-Men animated Fox show and going episode by episode by giving a review. And eventually, they will be covering the X-Men 97 animated series, which will be releasing on Disney Plus hopefully this year. Speaking of Andre, Andre has his own show called the Graphic Histories Podcast. It's a review podcast where he interview podcast where he interviews artists, writers, directors, all sorts of interesting people. Andre is a great interviewer. You should definitely check it out. So yeah. We also have the Hellbound podcast with Alex Blackburn and Michael Chan. Popularity Papers, YTV's own Michael Chan. You should check that out. Mondays at 6 o'clock on YTV, also on Stack TV. Check it out. So Hellbound podcast is a horror movie podcast, as it shown. It's audio only. They also do a little short bit podcast as well over the weekends. Definitely check that out. We also have Eamon on Track, its newest show on our network. Eamon on Track. Eamon covers, goes through and reviews an entire album for each episode. The first episode was on Hamilton. Definitely an awesome review episode. Should definitely check it out. I'm supposed to be doing an episode soon, but I've been dragging my feet a little bit too much. Don't know what to pick, so eventually I'll figure it out. But Eamon on Track, definitely check it out. And then we also have Trivial Debates. Is our debate show, happens monthly. The last episode we had was a wrestling theme podcast episode where I competed with Jason R. Phillips, Andre, and the world mind Chris Murphy was the host. So the premise is we have a subject, we have 3 debaters and 1 host, and hilarity ensues. So definitely check it out. Trivial Debates, a lot of great episodes in our back catalog. And last but not least, you have Live Long and Podcast, the mothership of this podcast network. It is a Star Trek review podcast, but much more than that. They do deep dives on specific subjects. There's looks into different Trek gear. There's Trek episode reviews. So Mondays there's Enterprise at 8. Typically Tuesdays they have D Space 9 at 9. And Thursdays is when we do our newer episode reviews when they air, shortly after they air. Picard Season 3 just finished up, so no episode this week. But once Strange New Worlds Season 2 starts up, there'll be new episodes of Live Long and Podcast reviewing that show on Thursday. often we do our radio broadcast is called Radio Theater, Star Trek Radio Theater, and what the premise is we take Star Trek scripts and we do like a radio show on it, like an audio program. And this time we did adaptation of Lower Decks comic book storyline, and it was awesome. Should definitely check it out. This is not the final version. We do like two versions. One, a live version, and then also we do a kind of cleaned up version where all the 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 little bumps along the road get cleaned up. Both are left up, so you have two versions to check out. Live show is pretty fun, so should definitely check it out. And that's it. Thank you for joining me on Super Mater Brothers. Yes, I'm not a Mater, but we all have a little bit of Mater in us. So thank you for joining, and until next time, be well, be safe.